This month we will be talking about Pillar 2, national security. The American Legion found it fit that after September 11th, 2001, the terrorist attack on U.S. soil, to reinstill the importance of national security. I agree 100%. This point in time for the United States put the nation's vulnerability in a glass ball. We knew it. Everyone knew it. From the American Legion national page it says, and I quote, "The American Legion has passed national resolutions supporting and reconfirming its support for the global war on terrorism and for all of those who have critical responsibilities in fighting it." End quote. It focuses on 6 major points, and I quote, ensuring a well-funded, well-equipped, and well-trained military, focusing awareness and surveillance on rogue nations, terrorist groups, and global threats to U.S. security around the world, supporting the Department of Homeland Security and urging its steadfast protection of U.S. borders, ports, and other entry points, enabling a decent quality of life for troops and their families, active duty and reserve component alike. That includes reasonable compensation, benefits, health care, and child care, and family support programs. Providing an efficient and compassionate healing transition program for wounded, ill, or injured warriors. Also within the Legion's national security pillar is the Foreign Relations Commission that works closely with the Department of State to seek peaceful solutions to conflicts around the world and to advance the goals of U.S. foreign policy. End quote. Due to the concerns of defense cuts and soldier well-being, quote, we risk leaving our military a hollow force, that like of post-Vietnam era, end quote. The Vietnam War left a lot of soldiers mentally impacted, and they did not have that proper support coming back home. Due to this, the American Legion recommends sufficient funding towards the military to improve all areas, of course, as an organization, of the veterans. Our goal is to improve our military force, decrease extended deployments, and improve the United States to be better prepared for a national security emergency. That information is all a part of the National Defense subcategory of the American Legion's national security position. After the National Defense subcategory, there are 7 more subcategories. Those include military quality of life, homeland security, immigration enforcement, foreign relations, full accounting of American POW MIAs in the event of a natural disaster, and heroes to hometowns. Now I will touch briefly on each of those categories in order for you to get the full aspect of what national security is for the American Legion. However, it would be too much to go fully in depth into these categories in this video. As one in the military myself, and most of you as family members of military personnel, we've all heard of TRICARE. And if you haven't, TRICARE is a healthcare program that is available for military servicemen and extended to their families. TRICARE and the VA disability compensation are both under military quality of life. As you can imagine, we want the best quality of life for our servicemen, service members, and their well-being. The VA healthcare system would not be possible without the American Legion, and I really want to stress on that. The American Legion is crucial because it provides funds and volunteer personnel for these programs to help our veterans. Many veterans rely on the VA healthcare system for injuries or illness sustained by their time in the military. Now, I am sure that we have all seen the commercials on TV about Homeland Security. And all these companies are trying to get our attention for the best security system to protect our families and us. And some of us may have those systems in our house. Well, that's not quite what it means to the American Legion. In fact, Homeland Security to the American Legion is more focused on natural disasters, i.e., large hurricanes, terrorist attacks, etc. Supporting the Department of Homeland Security is vital to the American Legion. This program is basically disaster control, law enforcement, environmental protection, and national defense all in one. According to the American Legion national website, and I quote, the Pew Research Center has estimated that 11.2 million illegal immigrants lived in the United States in 2010, end quote. Quote, more than 1 million aliens attempted to illegally enter this country without proper documentation or legally and violate their visas, end quote. The immigration enforcement subcategory of national security was put in place to reform the immigration policy. As Americans, we feel very strongly that illegal immigration is in fact illegal and should not be allowed. The American Legion believes that these laws should be enforced. Quote, the Legion encourages the federal government to provide sufficient resources to enforcement agencies tasked with curtailing illegal immigration and enforces Congress to mandate continuation of the U.S. immigration and customs enforcement student and exchange visitor information system, end quote. That was a lot, but basically that means that if you would like to enter our country, that you must have the proper documentation and must do it legally. I will touch briefly on foreign relations as it is kind of a mouthful. Basically, the subcategory is the encouragement of increased federal funding for foreign relations and international affairs. Quote, the Legion urges the President, Congress, and Department of State to significantly increase the number of foreign service officers and its ranks and to implement a veterans preference policy to enhance America's diplomatic missions by recruiting more qualified and experienced veterans, end quote. Subcategory of full accounting of American POW and MIAs is the whole reason that we honor the POW MIA flag at every single meeting. It is important and it is vital that they are not forgotten about because they are Americans, as are we, and they have the right to be found dead or alive. It is our mission to have full accountability for fallen U.S. servicemen. The American Legion fully supports the procedures taken to, quote, locate and repatriate all recoverable remains of U.S. military personnel who have died or are missing in foreign battle zones, end quote. Now moving on to the subcategory of in the event of a natural disaster. In the 1920s, quote, the Legion entered into an agreement with the American Red Cross to assist in disaster relief and fundraising. The collaboration continued for about half a century until the wake of Hurricane Hugo in 1989. Some of you may remember this, some of you may not. The Legion created an anonymous disaster relief entity, the National Emergency Fund, end quote. The National Emergency Fund is still used today and is very much so encouraged to all American Legion family members. This fund allows for direct financial aid to members and posts who are in crisis. Last but not least is Heroes to Hometowns. In the preamble, quote, for God and country we associate ourselves together for the following purposes, end quote. Right after that sentence in the preamble, we go in and list all the purposes of why the American Legion stands. It's the Constitution of the American Legion. And I will end it with this, quote, as one of the 4 pillars it was founded on, the Legion believes national security is upheld by keeping a well-funded Department of Defense, a good quality of life for troops, and a sensible transition between service and separation. End quote. I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you all for watching to the end of this video and following along to learn more about national security and what it has to offer for the American Legion and the American Legion family, military, veterans, and their families. Thank you so much for watching.